we crushed in sales. We were exceptional in sales. And then we learned how to tell stories around what we did when we learned that we need to always like do marketing. But what's marketing? Like it's really storytelling. You have to tell the best stories. You have to have the most customer references. You have to have these examples where it gives you, instant credibility when you're trying to. So the sales part, people don't understand the value of sales. You have to have exceptional salespeople, great sales processes, the right pricing. You have to be able to quote people quickly, execute flawlessly. And if the sales experience isn't fantastic, what are people going to think about your delivery?
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook. Today, I am extremely honored to have Tony Safoian, the Tony Safoian, on my show. Tony, thank you so much for being here, man.
The honor is mine, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Not at all, not at all. So guys, just to give you a little, if you don't know Tony, you'll know him now. But Tony is, he joined. He's not the founder of SADA, but he is the driver of all the growth. He's the former owner, CEO, and president of SADA Systems. Hopefully, I got that right. Under his leadership, SADA became a six-time. Maybe there's a seventh I'm not aware of. Six-time Google Cloud Partner of the Year, which is no small feat, delivering incredible award-winning solutions. And I think in December 2023, there was an acquisition, right? SADA was acquired by Insight Enterprises for, we won't get into the numbers, but 9 figures plus. Tony is a proud father and husband, always talks about his incredible family to me every time we grab food. And I've been honored to have him on my panels in live and as a friend. Within 5 minutes of him announcing his retirement, I even asked him to be on my board. So that's how much I know this guy. Tony, thank you so much for being here, man.
Thanks for having me, brother. Yes, so it was 7 time as of last year, 2023. The new awards will come out sometime around April. And I was texting with my former COO, now CEO of the SADA business unit, and I said, "Hey, if you win that eighth award, it's 75% mine still, right? Because I was there through 3 quarters." We're joking about that. I was like, "If you want me to be on stage accepting it with you, just let me know." Of course, I'm joking.
Did you get a ring? Did you still get a ring, Tony?
That's the question, right? Do I still get a ring for being there 2/3? It's funny you said that, and you're like, "Why are you so specific about the numbers?" I was always competitive, in whatever game you're playing, you want to be number one. So I love that award because it's so definitive. There's only one in the world, and it's either you or not you. Sometimes it was global, sometimes it was a North America award, and my other kind of things that I'm passionate about is basketball, and of course I love hip hop. And so Drake had this line about I wish I was playing a game where they gave out rings, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I always associated that award to like winning a ring.
Well, it's huge, man, especially for competitive people, whether you play sports or not. Once you stop competing in an athleticism or something like that, then there's how do you compete? How do you measure up? And business
Yeah,
for me was one way to do it. And so I love that. And
true.
Tony, by the way, Tony and I were both sponsors. He much bigger sponsor of Armenian basketball as well. That was a lot of fun being up there with you, Tony. So
Yeah, for
appreciate
sure.
everything you do for the community.
I was texting with Rex the other day. That is one of my passions. It's, you think about, especially post acquisition, newly retired, like what are the things you're going to focus on? Because I still believe tremendously in focus, and that the list is getting pretty short. But Armenia basketball, I told Rex, I'm in. Post SADA, I'm still
Wow.
in, and we'll keep going. And maybe he can help me fulfill my dream of being the oldest national basketball team
Hey, man,
player
you
one
got the
day.
height.
I got to
You
train
got the
for it.
height. You
I
got
got
the
to
height,
train.
brother.
I want to go to training camp and try out. Maybe I can get a walk on,
Let's
play
go.
a
Why
couple
not?
minutes,
Why not,
garbage time.
man? Get you in there. Get you a standing ovation, and call it a day. They just had a
Hopefully,
nice game in Armenia too.
hopefully not injure myself.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
So Tony, let's talk a little bit about your, you went from immigrant roots to industry leader. I mean, just incredible stuff, innovation, philanthropy. You're all over the place. Tell me a little bit about the journey. Like, how did you get to the point where, you guys had a successful business, your parents built a nice business, but you took over and 10x'd it. Let's talk a little bit about the journey. How did you even get into the game?
Yeah, there's always timing, there's always luck, there's always things that happen in the universe that direct you certain ways. It was not at all a foregone conclusion when I was at school that I would be doing anything entrepreneurial, that I would be certainly working with my parents. That was sort of not at all the plan, but you go through certain experiences and the universe kind of guides you in certain directions. For me, the two big things was when I went and studied abroad my third year of school, basically, dropped out of my bio major. As a result, I was like, this is not what I want to do. And that was fine. I came back and did a bunch of things. My mom was very helpful in guiding me, say, okay, it's good. Now you know what you don't want to do. Go figure out what it is you do want to do. So I took a bunch of internships. My dad was very upset that I didn't want to become a doctor. So I think for 4 months, he didn't talk to me for like 4 months. But and he told me, he's like, my whole life, like, you have to be a doctor. You should be a doctor. Don't do what I do. It's like, don't do tech. Don't be your heart is too big for business. That kind of thing. And there's a lesson in that too, by the way, around parenting, which we'll get into. But I took a bunch of different internships. A bunch of them were like free internships. A lot of the other interns that came in with me, whether it was at Merrill Lynch or this .com that I ended up at, it was not a paid role in the beginning. So like they didn't take it seriously. I took it seriously. Like I went in every day. I kept coming. A lot of these other interns kept dropping off. They stopped coming. And this one .com I worked at, which is called ticketclub.com, was, when they got funding, I was one of the only people left in their internship class. So they
Wow.
just said, like, we want to pay you. So they started paying me, and it was great. And I was kind of their IT guy. Then they raised real money. They're like, don't touch our computers. I knew how to do basic things because my dad was a technologist. I grew up with the latest and greatest at home. We didn't have a lot of money. Sometimes we didn't have furniture, but we definitely had like the latest computer of the day, and that's credit to my dad for making that happen. But so I
Hovik
worked there.
Safoian, right? It's Hovik,
The legend, the
the
legend.
legend. Yes.
My both of my parents are legends, but the thing in the universe that happened next was this was 2000, and the .com bust was upon us. This was a .com I was working at. They failed to raise their next round, so it was basically I was going to be out of a job, right? And the timing was my dad had this idea to start this company called SADA with some friends around developing, applications, custom applications. My mom was already running a kind of a very small sole proprietorship, one or two employee graphic design company outside of SADA. So SADA was being born, and I was like, should I just get another job and stay in Orange County, or should I just move up to LA, move back into my bedroom, and try to help my parents? And I was like, culturally, for us especially, maybe even more so being an only child, I was like, I can't like my energy, my talent, whatever. Like, how can I devote it to anything else other than my own family and my parents? So that was not a hard decision for me. I moved up, and I didn't know how to write software. I didn't know how to do graphic design. I knew how to fix computers. So the same clients for whom we were doing graphic design and other stuff, we were like, hey, we can take care of your computers too. So that's sort of how it started. So I was thrust into it with not a lot of premeditation, not a lot of planning, no big plan, and just every year, just try to do what I thought was cool as far as business models or technologies. Where's technology going? Where's the future? And that's how it started. And I was like, no master plan.
Tony, let's grab something you said and unpack it a little bit. You talked about your father said your heart is too big to be in business. And it's funny because if you know Tony, you know he's got a big heart. He's a great guy. He's a humble guy. I mean, you've got an edge, but you're genuinely a good human being. And I have the similar challenge, right? So if you look at most people that build billion-dollar businesses or $100 million businesses, a lot of times they have to have they have to be a little bit more ruthless. And I think that's what your father was talking about, right? Because often people with big hearts, they hold on to people a little bit too long if they like them. Now, don't get me wrong. I have my red lines. You cross my red lines, it's done, right? Like there is no looking back. But anything beyond the red lines, I try to make it work, and I think that's what he's describing.
Yeah.
That lack of ruthlessness. I'm extremely competitive, but I'm not ruthless because I like people, and I'm a people
Hmm.
first leader, and I've always led that way. And when I've tried to be something outside of that, it hasn't worked for me. It's not natural. But tell me why that's accurate and maybe not accurate, right? I mean, clearly it worked. Your heart isn't too big to be a great technologist or a founder. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, man, that's a really great question.
Either the
Deep
myth
question.
is busted on this call, or maybe you explain that no, it was accurate.
Yeah, no, look, I think I was very well taken care of as an only child. All my needs were met. Not that we didn't go through struggle. I think, growing up in a Soviet system is a struggle. We moved every single year when I was a kid because like we basically didn't have permanent housing. My dad, the way my dad grew up, I mean, he didn't have like literally, 10, 10 kopecks to rub together. Not cents because kopecks were the Soviet currency.
Yep.
Um, and so, yeah, but my parents always like, we always had food, we always had clothes. Like, we lived really well. We always went on vacation every year. This is back in Armenia. But so I grew up very well taken care of. You could say even early days, coddled. So, and my mom has a huge heart.
Yeah.
My dad also has a huge heart, different, but massive heart. Like if you're on his team, he'll do anything for you. So that was my upbringing, and so I didn't get exposed to a lot of things that would necessarily uh, make me or cause me to ever need or want to be ruthless, right? So, but I think what I learned very early on in the early years is, and what I mean by learned is like to survive and grow any business, you have to develop certain mindsets that if you don't, you will struggle. You not only the business will fail, but like you will just it'll kill you. Like not really, but and so I had to develop, well, by experience, thicker skin. I had to develop an edge, and I had to learn from mistakes. But I never, and to this day, like I don't believe in being. I don't believe that you need to be and operating a certain way that casts people aside to be a great business person. I think when you have to make tough decisions and over time you have to make tougher and tougher decisions, you can still do it with heart. When you have to fire somebody, when you have to negotiate really hard, when you have to, but I think there's a way to do that that leaves everyone with their dignity.
Great.
Um, Even to this day, it's so funny. I have more time in my hands, so I'm like shopping, for car insurance or whatever because I have time. So I'm like, look, I'll just be like, there's two people or three people competing. I'm like, look, uh, this is the price and this is what I'm getting from this person. Can you do it? I'm not like, I don't ghost these people.
Yeah.
I don't tell them they suck. I'm like, it's either you can or you, but I'm transparent. Right? I think
Sure.
operating with transparency, not being naive is really important. The other part of it that I think creates toughness is that you don't win all the time. I remember the first couple times like when we like lost a customer or somebody left, that used to devastate me, and maybe I think proportionally those were a bigger deal when you were small, very small company than when you
Sure.
are a bigger company, but you learn how to be, pragmatic and stoic. You learn how to be forward looking, always, like a shark, always, forward momentum, and that creates that. But like, I think you can be super savvy, super wise, super successful, and never screw people over. Like, I
Okay.
think that's totally possible. And maybe it's not possible at massive public company level. Maybe it's not possible to become a multi-billionaire without literally screwing people over. I don't know. I haven't been on that journey, but I think you can do you can build a huge successful business and never screw people over.
That's really great news. I mean, that's refreshing to hear because a lot of times you do see that, right? And some of
Yeah.
your good people thinking does hold you back. But I think if you do it with class, but no, the way I do it is the way that I think about it is I'm protecting the rest of my employees, right? So
Absolutely.
if this business partner or this employee is holding this back and hurting us, then I'm not doing my the rest of my team justice. I'm actually
Hmm.
jeopardizing their jobs. So that's how
Hmm.
I kind of go about my decision making. Because otherwise, then you want to hold on to everything and everyone, and and that's not scalable. It's definitely not sustainable.
Let's talk about the other. You
Yeah.
said an edge, and I think developing an edge, and I've done a lot of reading, not only as a philosophy major, which I was, but post. And I want to quote something that Jordan Peterson says, even though he's somewhat of a controversial figure sometimes, but maybe he's gone a little crazy. But a lot of wisdom in his writing, and one thing that he says is that he says, the best people are not just nice. He says the best people are really tamed monsters. And what he means is people that are capable of going nuts, if they have to, going really hard if they have to, but tame themselves so that it's not, necessary. And he actually, and he says this in his lectures from 20 years ago. It's not his new stuff necessarily, but he talks about like if you look about every like Disney hero, Beauty and the Beast, like these are typically the heroes are tamed monsters, and I think we all sort of need to be that as CEOs or as husbands or as parents, because if somebody does do something that hurts something or someone you love, you have to be able to bring out the monster. And I think not necessary 99.999% of the time, but you have to have it in you.
I agree, Tony. And I think for me, one of the biggest things that it's about is we all want to be liked, but there's a saying, I don't know who said it, but if you want to be liked, don't be a business owner, go sell ice cream, right? Because unfortunately,
Sure.
it's not something, if you really need to be liked, you're constantly going to make decisions to be liked versus doing the right thing.
Yeah.
So
Look, if
that
people see you operating honestly and ethically,
yeah.
uh, but you have to fire them as a customer, cancel a contract, whatever. If they don't like you, that's a very personal thing in them. It's nothing,
Absolutely.
has nothing to do with you.
And also, you said transparency. I think it's extremely important for us to be transparent with our staff. Like I told my staff about a year ago, hey guys, that was the peacetime CEO. You're going to unfortunately see a little bit of a wartime CEO, right? A lot of times, wartime presidents have to be different than the peacetime presidents. Usually, one can't be the other, right? It's very easy to be liked, and
$100%.
frankly, if I could be honest, I've had a couple of team members in the past even say, it's not the same hire clout from a year and a half, 2 years ago. Well, we're not in the same game right now, right? And so it's a little bit of more of a wartime mindset. So yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes we operate a
Like
little bit differently.
2000 to 2022, those years are gone forever.
They're gone forever. I agree.
So nobody should be romanticizing about a period of complete nonsense and
Exactly.
exuberance.
Exactly. I
It's
think I
just not, that
think
was not that way before, ever in the history of time, and it probably won't be that way ever in the future, and that's probably a good thing.
it was La La Land, if I could be honest, right? And everybody
Irresponsible.
everybody was throwing money around, over hiring, overpaying, and now we're paying for it. This is what I would consider a market correction, not in the stock
Yeah,
market way,
yeah,
but the actual just the business world. So I think that's what
yeah.
we're paying
And
for.
and and,
Hopefully we
and
go
we're
back to
still
reality.
we're still we're still flushing that out. I mean,
Yeah.
we're still flushing that out as an industry, as an economy, for
Yeah.
sure.
Tony, you accomplished huge things. Let's dive into another kind of, I don't want to say myth, but sometimes people don't look at the 1 to 10 scale that you did versus the 0 to 1, right? Sometimes people romanticize and idolize the people that have to start their own companies, and that's the love. Those are the ones that get the love. But the truth is, sometimes it's a lot more challenging getting it from 1 to 10 than the 0 to 1. Tell me a little bit about that, because you're one of the few that did what you did, but you took over already a small boutique kind of but successful company, and did what many of us are trying to do and scale it at that level. Teach us something about that concept.
Yeah, I mean, look, I joined 6 months after Sada was founded, so we had one customer that the business was built around. So again, my mom had a graphic design business for years. Before that, more, sole proprietor kind of operation, couple of employees, on contract and stuff like that. But I think 0 to 1 is extremely hard. I think that you're trying to find service market fit or product market fit. You're trying to find pricing. You're trying to find uh, a disparity between supply and demand of some kind of a commodity or talent or a service. That's really, really hard. And I think what makes it increasingly hard, which I didn't have to deal with, is the trade-offs you have to make when you're doing that. You have a job that's paying well. How do you stop that and start something new? Is very, very difficult. Maybe you have kids, maybe you have a family, you have all, these responsibilities. I think that is one of the biggest barriers to entrepreneurship is that uh, the trade-offs, the cost of stopping something that's working quite well, maybe not your passion, but it's just like you have responsibilities. So how do you do that? So that's really tough. That being said, I think it's you have many, many, many businesses that get to 5 employees, 10 employees, 50 employees, and get stuck. And that's okay, actually. I remember about, we were there probably 10 years ago, 15 years ago. We're kind of in this period where I asked myself and I learned and I observed there's actually a red pill, blue pill moment when you're 50 employees or doing a couple $1 million a year. My competitive set in this Google ecosystem was essentially made up of, no serious company was working with Google at the time. It was just a bunch of mavericks, founder-led small companies, and some of them operated like a lot of businesses operated, which is like, look, this is going to be a lifestyle business. We're going to win a contract, a lot of money comes in, we're going to take the money out, we're going to support our lifestyle. That's fine. And that's actually, if you don't put the pressure on yourself to grow and grow at a certain pace, that's actually way easier. It's like the base camp founders was 37 Signals, you know, they're very, I forgot the dude's name, but very, very opinionated about a bunch of things like cloud is this and tech is that. And I'm like, dude, you guys are growing like 2% a year. That's fine. Like you can say those things, right? You have predictable, whatever, you have an okay product. Great. I'm not saying that's a lifestyle business. It's probably surpassed that at this point, but it's like you're in control, you have no stakeholders, you're just growing whatever. You're not competing with anyone really in that way. So you can do a bunch of things, and that's fine. But I think that's a very different path than if you're like, look, I see something that has a need. I have a certain skill set or capability. I have a window of opportunity. I am going for it. I'm going for it. I don't have whatever specific something in mind per se, and I'm just going to make it as big, as successful as I can. That is like the other path. So in that path, that is not a lifestyle business. That is when you are grinding 16 hours a day, innovating, hiring, modifying, changing, out all the time. And that is a very different lifestyle and is a very different set of decisions with a certain set of either self-imposed pressures, which we had because we're self-funded, or you actually either borrow money or get funding. And it's like external stakeholders come on board. It's even more pressure, different kind of pressure, and you're going for it. So we decided. I remember distinctly making that decision. looking myself in the mirror, my wife, parents, like, all right, we're going for it. And it's gonna be hard, but we have to. Like, we felt the obligation to ourselves in terms of the economic potential, but that was almost secondary to the market potential. We're like, we are great at this, and this changes businesses. We can impact a lot of lives. We can help a lot of people. We got to go for it. So that
Huge.
was the decision. That was a decision, but it was a deliberate one. But that is very hard because you have to sacrifice so much of sometimes your health, sometimes your relationships, certainly your leisure. And you have to have, I had partners like my parents who were on board with this. They worked their asses off. And that's a lot of people are not willing to do that, and understandably so.
Yeah.
And that's okay, actually. There's nothing wrong with a lifestyle business.
And I think the the first is fine. The latter is fine. I think where people get lost is they think they want to grow. They think they're willing to do the things, but the truth is they're not, right? And you hear them talk about work-life balance and this and that and travel. You're like, oh my God, you don't know what you're in for. Like you're about to hurt yourself for years. And one of the things you talked about, Tony, is like sometimes you sacrifice time with loved ones and you put that strain on those relationships. You don't realize it for years, right? Because you're running 100 miles an hour and sometimes you don't see anything in the peripheral. You're just
Yeah.
running,
I
right?
think I
And
think an important question is there truly that opportunity to grow? Is there a demand that's underserved for which you are uniquely positioned to outperform everyone else? Is it a growing market, and are you going to outgrow the growth of that market? Is it even possible? For us, we knew cloud. We got cloud. A lot of people didn't understand cloud. We got Google. A lot of people didn't understand Google. We're like, this is a thing. Nobody gets it. We got to go for it. Like, there's a window. The second thing is, are you willing to do things like hire some exceptional people, pay them more than you make yourself?
oof,
Are you willing to not take the money out, not buy the car, not buy the house, not buy the boat, grind and find like three or four key pieces that are going to make a shitload of money? They're going to make more than you. They may even get some equity. Are you willing to do that? And a lot of people have this like, oh, I can't pay someone more than I own the business. Like, how can they make more than me? And I remember having, for a minute, like these debates with my dad, like, oh my God, but I mean, it didn't take long for him to get it, while
yeah,
certain pieces were so freaking critical,
yeah,
at the time.
it's huge.
But those are moves that are like, you're serious, and it's hard. You're a 50 employee company. You're trying to find the best mind in insurance, the best mind in staffing, the best mind in fintech. These people are like, dude, they can work anywhere. You're trying to get them to work for you. You got to not only pay them, you probably got to give them a piece, and a lot of people are not willing to do that.
And that's sometimes the most difficult thing. My mom used to have a saying. It's probably an Armenian saying. She would say, "Nothing's cheaper than expensive." It's like, what? What does that mean? And I think a lot of it
Yeah,
reigns true in our world, right? A lot of
yeah,
times, as small businesses, 20, 30, 40 people, you're trying to get the most for the least. The
yeah,
problem is a lot of times those are people that need you to tell them what to do, right? So you waste a
yeah.
lot of time trying to scale yourself, but you're really watering it down with average people,
I think you
right?
probably mean it the other way. Nothing is more expensive than cheap.
There you go. There you go. Maybe that's what I meant. So one of the
Yeah,
best
yeah,
things to do is go out and pay the most, and that's across the board. Don't go with the cheapest vendor. Go with the best. Don't go with the cheapest employee. Go with the strongest. And I think those are tough words. I mean, it's easier said than done. Like you said, sometimes these people will make more than you. I mean, when the COVID shutdown happened, I mean, we didn't pay ourselves for 5.5 months, and that was painful, right? But we had to. If we paid ourselves, that was it. And we
totally.
continued to have conservative salaries just to make sure our team eats, right? Leaders eat last sometimes. So that's huge. Tony, let's talk a little bit about this 10x concept. Like when scaling a company, where do most leaders stumble? Is it process? Is it people? Is it mindset? Is it lack of work ethics? I doubt it's that. And how can they anticipate and overcome these challenges?
Again, I want to start by saying very important. You can 10x in a segment that doesn't have the demand for it, right? So you have to be in the right you have to find a lane. I think we did that multiple times. 2002, we thought break fix computer repair was stupid, that we should just charge monthly to prevent computers from breaking. Novel, now it's called managed services. Everybody does it. They've done it forever. But Rackspace built a huge business, in that in 2000s. But and so like that scaled quickly. Like we got like 25 customers immediately. Like, oh my God, you're gonna prevent this stuff from breaking? Like it's great. And you'll add, you'll upgrade my things when I need them. Like yeah. So the demand, was there. Then early days of Google Enterprise Search. Nobody else did it. We did it. The launch of Google Workspace 2007. We did it. Nobody else. Like you get 10x when you have these opportunities. But the other thing, absolutely, number two, talent. Talent, immediately, you need talent. You can only do the things yourself for so long. And you need to, again, at a time where hopefully you can afford it, pay people to get the top people. Because if you're trying to get somebody that's worth a role that's really like pays $150,000 a year, but you're trying to find this person for 75, it's very hard. You have to hire young people with no experience, and maybe in 3 to 5 years they can become great, the best in the world. And at some market moments you can afford to wait but at some points when it's a more mature market you can't. You just have to go get that person, and they're going to be
Yep.
expensive. And then beyond that, I think is sales culture, sales capability, sales acumen. Of course, we pride ourselves on exceptional engineering. The quality of the delivery has to be great, but there's a lot of IT services companies started by engineers. They're so good at what they do, can't sell for shit.
Absolutely.
Can't sell, you're dead. Sales, you have to be sales led, sales driven. Again, so many salespeople at my company made so much more money than I did in any given year. That was okay.
It's
That was
great.
okay because it's performance based, right? We crushed in sales. We were exceptional in sales. And then we learned how to tell stories around what we did when we learned that we need to, I was like, do marketing. But what's marketing? Like, it's really storytelling. You have to tell the best stories. You have to have the most customer references. You have to have these examples where it gives you, instant credibility when you're trying to. So the sales part, people don't understand the value of sales. You have to have exceptional salespeople, great sales processes, the right pricing. You have to be able to quote people quickly, execute flawlessly. And if the sales experience isn't fantastic, what are people going to think about your delivery,
Yeah.
right? If you suck at selling, they're gonna be like, oh shit, like they're not even getting back to me, and I'm trying to buy.
Yeah.
How? What if we have an issue? What if they're, so that has to
Exactly.
be an exceptional. So selling, people forget about that. That's why these IT services companies get stuck at a certain size. They can't sell. They're not hiring salespeople. They don't have the right sales leadership. They don't have a great sales culture. And again, the great sales culture isn't about screwing customers over. It's about meeting customer demand in the right way with a great experience at a fair price. That is a joy to do business with. As you pick up the phone when they call, you respond to their grievances immediately. You fix things. I made a mistake. Here's the refund. Here's a discount. What do you need? And then keeping those customers, right? Acquiring customers is very difficult and expensive. You want to keep customers. You want to grow those relationships. Um, and so if you get those things right, I
Wow.
think the growth will come. Then, of course, you need processes after a certain size. I think the right number, Miles Ward, my CTO, got in, and we're right around 140 people. And he said something about like anthropology beyond 150 to 170 people. Communication breaks down, so you need to start writing shit down. You have to document processes, create systems, document, because you end up telling the same people, same people, different, the same thing 15 times, and everything's in people's heads. You got to write things down. You got to implement some good software for
Mm.
whatever, right? CRM, finance, accounting, payroll, whatever. Like you need good systems, especially after a certain size, because communication breaks down. It's just anthropology. I think that's like tribal size,
Yeah.
going back tens of thousands of years. Like after a certain size, things break down. So you have to write things down. Um, And that's it, man. Just keep executing, have a culture that learns from mistakes, quickly fixes them permanently,
It's huge.
and celebrates wins. Good people, don't hire assholes. Make sure people love working there. They're rewarded for your success. All the success doesn't just funnel to the top. That
Huge.
did never last long. And be willing to share. Be willing to share profits and success and revenue, and you can't not reward people along the way, because that's just extremely short-sighted. See, somebody might say, going back to like, if you're shrewd, you'll pay people as little as you can. That's complete bullshit. Like, it's actually incorrect. It's wrong. You should pay people as much as you possibly can. Within limits. What I mean, within reason. What I mean is, like, don't think paying people less is smart.
Yep. Tony, you nailed it. You talked about customer retention. Talk about employee retention. They say it's 5 times cheaper to keep a customer. It's probably similar in keeping your best employees, right? Now, people
For
can't get
sure, man.
overly,
For sure.
almost, they can't use their pride when it comes to retention, because sometimes turnover is good, but you want to keep your best people, and it's extremely important to do that. One of the things that we were proud of is not how many placements we make, but when we do our hiring, is our people stay 2.3 times longer than industry average. So you might look at, yeah, oh
Wow.
yeah, yeah,
That's
it's
very
something
good.
we did, and it's huge, and those people grow, they get promoted. 5 years later, they're the ones that are content is to hire for their team. So retention is huge, and you have to have a process for that. Then you talked about sales, Tony. So I've felt it firsthand as an advisor to startups who don't know how to sell. Their products are brilliant. They usually die because they just don't have a culture. A lot of them are offshore companies, but they want to US to be their market. The problem is you have to have a person, boots on the ground, to sell in the US, I think. And then for me firsthand is, for years I had so much business coming at me because of my network and the work I put in early in my career, that my team really didn't have to sell. So we became an incredible delivery machine. Our challenge was, when the market turns, then your culture doesn't think the right way. They don't think, they're
Mm.
looking at you like, where's the food, pops? Almost, and you
Yeah.
have to. So I started lecturing them like back in my day, we used to walk 20 miles in the snow to get business. So we started warning them, hey, this isn't gonna
Yeah.
last forever. And they would look
Yeah.
at us like, what do you mean? It's like,
Yeah.
guys, you got to start doing business development and sales to maintain this level. And I don't know if they believed us, they didn't. Those that believed us stuck around and are winning right now. Those that did
Hmm.
not, unfortunately, aren't here one way or the
Yeah.
other.
That's what happens.
They couldn't.
Natural.
They're waiting for us to feed them. So that's huge. Tony, one of the most impressive things about this exit that you had was the fact that it was a service business that you exited. To me, scaling service businesses are a lot more challenging than a tech play. Because if you get a great product in tech, eventually it'll sell itself, and you really don't need as many people, especially now with all this AI. Tell us a little bit about the difference of, although you were a technology company, it was a service focused business. Tell us the key differences, and how you could scale specifically a service technology product or service.
Yeah, I think so. We had a very interesting business model. P&L would reflect this business model. So we were certainly a service company, but we also sold a lot of the technology that we implemented. So we were reseller, MSP, professional services organization. Not, again, not deliberately built that way, but we just kind of, where the market took us, where customers took us, that's what we did. We started out just services, but then as soon as we could sell, like early days, I was like, oh, like, hey, you need a new hard drive. Uh, well, if I could also just sell you the hard drive, doesn't that make the experience better? Because, like, and then I don't have to worry about, are you going to get the right hard drive? Like, I'm just gonna get the right hard drive, bill you $200 for that, and bill you $100 to install it, whatever, right? So we thought that, like, that value chain was really important. That translated into SaaS sales as well. Like the moment we could sell the enterprise search appliance, we did. The moment we could sell Google Workspace, we did. The moment we could sell Microsoft on their new CSV license, framework, we did. Because again, the continuity of accountability was really important, and the incentive alignment was really important. Um, and because we had like Google and Microsoft in the mix, that also helped. Of course, brand association became another catalyst. Like we became the cloud people, we became the best at Microsoft Cloud, the best at Google Cloud, and then last 5 years, the Google best at Google. I mean, Google and SADA kind of synonymous. That was really great for us. But so I think if you have a product integrated into your services, especially a great product integrated with your services strategy, that certainly helps. I think, but if you don't want to be in that business of selling, I still think that being hyper specialized in what you're servicing is the only way to grow. If you're generic, if you're like, oh, we got a bunch of developers, like, what do you want to develop? What do you want to write on? We do everything. Like,
Yeah.
you're never going to grow that. Okay. Not, if you're a global systems integrator, you have to do that because once you win a customer, it's a big contract. But you have tens of thousands of employees, sometimes 100. Like maybe you can do that well, but if you want to be the best in the world, I think you got to hyper specialize in whatever professional services you're offering.
Huge,
That's
huge,
critical.
huge. If you're all things to all people, you're nothing,
Yeah.
right? Is
So
what
the
it is.
acquisition right after us at Insight was this ServiceNow, hyper specialized ServiceNow company, and I met the CEO founder, really brilliant guy. But it was like all they did was ServiceNow. They were the best in the world at ServiceNow. They didn't sell it. Doesn't matter. They were the best in the world at ServiceNow.
Wow.
That's it. They would
That's
beat
it.
Deloitte. They would beat Accent. They would beat other ServiceNow generalists. I would say all the time because they were so good at that. So I mean that's another thing of like how do you start something? How do you compete in this market where there's other players? You got to create that level of niche, which means saying no to a lot of other things, saying yes to one thing that you deeply believe in and want to be the best in the world in. That's another catalyst for growth at the same time. You can't do it
Tony,
if you're generic.
it's funny you took the words right out of my mouth. It almost sounds like sometimes it's not what you say yes to, it's what you say no to. But with that comes a potential problem, right? Because you all were a Microsoft partner, right? And you said yes to Google Cloud, what really no serious businesses were doing it.
Hmm.
So it's tough to really determine, like, how does a business determine that no, 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 this is it. I have to say no to everything else versus wait a minute, I can't say yes to everything. We know that.
Hmm.
But I gotta say yes and I gotta experiment because the next play could be my 10, 100x like you did with Google Cloud.
Oh yeah, there's a very specific way I think it played out for us, and I think could be applied, to other examples. But so in the beginning, we were like relatively generic, very early. Like, okay, it was kind of like basic Microsoft networking, and it was like .NET development,
Mhm.
websites. We did voice over IP systems. Like, we're basically just trying things. As soon as you catch a tiger by the tail, and you know that that's what you do have to like. We stopped doing like we don't do websites anymore. We don't do voice over IP anymore. Like those didn't scale. They weren't like we didn't find the product market service market fit. Like when you do have to shut down the other things. That's how you get to some sort of critical mass and hyper growth and hopefully recognition and success and headcount growth. But then your other question is like that, oh, how do you make sure you don't miss the next thing? This is critical. So definitely innovator's dilemma. Very large companies struggle with this all the time. How did we, I think, outcompete the peer group is that we always had this sort of philosophy around how we would diversify. And for us, it was quite simple. It was like, if it's in the Google Cloud portfolio, we have to learn it. So we believed that if all you did was email migrations, completely different technology, methodology, implement everything. we could not only could we learn it, but it was existential that we learned
Wow.
it, right? Um, but even if you don't have that guiding principle of like a single vendor like we did for a long time, you have to pick things to expand to that you know your customers would also buy from you and that are adjacent, have enough commonality that you could cross train some of the people you have to learn how to sell it and deliver it, right? And you also have to have enough capacity, P&L capacity, to make multiple bets like that over time, such that if they don't work, you're going to be okay. But you can't stop taking those bets.
Mm.
It's like you have to lay some other chips on the table. You don't know what the next thing is going to be. Nobody has a crystal ball. Certainly when like, ChatGPT came out, LLMs came out, the whole world of AI was turned upside down. We're like, it was clear that we had to become experts in uh, Google stack of AI and Gen AI. But other times, like we didn't know if Maps was going to work, as a business. We had no idea. And there's all these other things. We built a whole business around Facebook released a enterprise chat product. And we're like, dude, okay, Google sucks at this. Google Plus is dead. Microsoft Yammer, that doesn't work. Nobody likes it. Our customers need this. And we think we can do it because we're good at like SaaS implementation and change management, whatever. And Facebook at the time, great brand as well. Uh, Dude, that business failed miserably, but we went for it. But we could afford the loss. And I didn't hire a bunch of new people to try to do. I'm like, hey, you, Jason, you go. Actually, it was Jason. Jason, you go figure out how to sell it. I need 2 engineers on the workspace team to learn how to implement it, and we're going to try it. But even GCP started that way. I had one guy, Simon Margolis. Simon, you're really smart. Go learn. You like this stuff. Go learn. Like code. You can do like infrastructure as code. You go learn. Like learn how to do it, and we're gonna try
Sure.
it. You have to keep doing that. If you
Yeah.
don't do that, like a lot of our competitors didn't, um, the growth is going to stop. You're going to die slowly, and you're going to be supplanted by those who are more holistic for customers.
So we're really talking the cliche concept, which is a great concept, is the fail fast, right? You're constantly shooting bullets, and if it works, you drop a cannon. If it doesn't, you scrap it and move on. That's kind of the concept you're referring
Not
to.
not only fail fast, but you have to have a pulse on where the industry is going. You have to listen to your customers all the time. They'll tell you what they want from you.
That was my
And
next question, Tony. That was
yeah,
actually a great segue because you said something brilliant, but it's easy to say like we're watching film, right? You all won the championship, and you're like, these are the things you got to do. It's so much easier at this point. How do you find? You said find a market that is scalable. That's I don't know your exact phrase, but like how do you do that? I guess it's listening to your
look,
customers, but you tell me.
yeah, look, you have to either have a deep love and passion, and you have to be so into something that you read so much about it, you listen to so much content about it, you talk to so many people that you devise like a thesis comes together in your head, but it has to
Mhm.
be something that you can't stop thinking about.
Sure.
Um, that way you can create like your own thesis around it and see something nobody else has seen. Like that's very important. But the other thing is just listen to your customers. They will tell you.
Yeah.
They will tell you. Talk to them all the time. Don't only talk to them when you're trying to sell them something
Yeah.
or deliver something or fix a problem. Talk to them all the time. They will tell you what they think you're good at, what the next thing they think, a need that they have, something that they have a need for that they don't see your capability to do yet is the reason they don't hire you. The market's right. The customers are right. Listen to your customers. They will tell you how you need to expand your services and to where. And I've always loved early days, um, finding those customers that are, could be champions. You're like, oh, you have this need? It's new. I've never done it before. If you're willing to give me a chance, because I've been serving you for 5 years and doing a
Sure.
really good job here. I'm not going anywhere. I will do it for you for free if you're like If you're happy with the results, be a reference, right? Like that's how you actually learn these skills to do something you've never done before, the market's never done before. But the other thing about innovator's dilemma I don't want to forget is not only do you have to be able to see, see the future a little bit and talk to your customers a lot and fail fast, but uh, Avo, you have to be able to actually sacrifice yourself. You have to
Yeah.
cannibalize your own business lines to be able to make that leap. And I'll give you an example where it's both a champion customer example and the cannibalization example. Moving from we're putting all servers where customers are and a managed service around that, very cool, very lucrative, to hey, we can't scale this thing. We had this middle period between that and cloud where we're like, hey, we can do this thing. We can just put it all in downtown LA and spin up Citrix and terminal server and we'll just manage it centrally. I found two champion customers to try, failed miserably, rolled it back, kept the customers, right? Amazing. But when Google came out with hosted email for businesses, we're like, oh my God, we're charging $500 a month to maintain this Exchange server on premise. To do this, I have to be able to give up this $500 a month.
Wow.
But if we didn't, somebody else is going to, right? So
100%.
like we have to kill our traditional managed services business slowly if we were going to really bet on the future. And massive companies, especially public companies, failed at doing this. Rackspace to this day is a shadow of what it used to be because they had this dilemma that they couldn't translate their amazing, best in class, world renowned managed services business, private hosting business to cloud. Like they got it all wrong.
That's why they're
And
like the
it's a
number
shame.
nine cloud, right? They're in the cloud game, but they're who knows where they're at. I
Yeah.
get
I
it.
mean,
I
made
wrote
tons
a
of mistakes, but like that's innovator's dilemma. It happens all the time in every industry. Not only do you have to see it and do all that, if you can't cannibalize your shit, somebody else is going to do it for you.
That's funny. I put a LinkedIn post about that specifically. Is if you don't disrupt your own business, somebody else will. It's just a matter of time. Might as well be you, right?
Might as well be
Really
you.
good. Tony, there's one thing we talked about. We talked about the sacrifices of founders. I feel like all companies say they want to grow, right? And they're growth businesses, but really a lot of them are not. And I think they have to own that. You have to decide, are you a lifestyle business? And there's
Yep.
absolutely nothing wrong with
Nothing.
that. In fact, if you're part of YPO's, Vistage, some of the advice you'll even get is like, hey man, you're in business to make money. Pay yourself first, right? Which is not necessarily wrong if you're a lifestyle business.
Hmm.
If you're a growth business and you genuinely want to grow, all this stuff Tony talked about, I mean, it's real. Like people, it's not just things we say to sound like we really that we're good people. It's like you do pay yourself last. You do make less than certain people at certain times. You do work way harder than anyone else. You do sacrifice a lot of different things. My rule
Yep.
was I never missed any of my kids' events. Thank God I could say 99% accurate, but that's still the case. There are
Beautiful.
things I've missed. It might have been a Halloween or something like that I was on the road, but those are real sacrifices that you do have to make. And if you don't want to make those
Hmm.
sacrifices, don't talk about growing, don't talk about scaling. Talk about, hey, I'm gonna optimize and make the most money possible, and there's nothing wrong with that because you can still take care of your employees, you can still run a great business, you can still have a
Totally.
great lifestyle, but you have to own what you are and what you're not so you can put yourself on the right path. Would you agree?
100%.
Nice.
100%.
Tony, exiting is a very, very, very high pressure, stressful situation, especially after the LOI is signed. There's a lot of due diligence, there's a lot of poking, and it sounds like Insight was a great partner. Sometimes you deal with a private equity firm or a company they're just kicking the tires around, just to put you in a situation where they can renegotiate. There's a lot of nasty
Yep.
stories about
Yep.
exits, causing a lot of stress. How do you ensure alignment among your team, your investors, the stakeholders, and frankly, even your family? Because they're in for this ride during that time where you're stressed out, you're freaking out, you're working harder than ever, and people know something's up, right? And if that
Yeah.
exit doesn't come through, It's
Yeah.
risky. How do you get all of
Yeah.
these stakeholders in your life and your business to align?
Yeah, I think so if you have been doing all the right things leading up to this moment where you decide it's the right time, that makes all of these things a lot easier, right? Like I've heard of people like getting to the end and be like, "Oh my God, nobody else is going to make any money if this thing is acquired. Let me give out some shares now. It's fine. It's not the worst thing in the world, but like we had created such a great incentive construct where so many people were going to be benefactors of an exit. Not as many as we would liked always. Like we'd love, for everybody to, but like basically if you're at SADA 2016, or if you're on the leadership team, like this is going to be a great moment for you. That being said, it's still a process you have to keep very tight because there's a lot of ups and downs, because it's distracting as all hell, and because it's emotionally draining as all hell. But a lot of people are like, bankers suck. You don't need bankers. It really is very, very dependent. I love my bankers. Nobody's perfect. I had a great team from Goldman. They were ride or die with us through the ups and through the downs. They can't do magic, right? Bankers cannot sell a $10 thing for $100, nor can they change the market dynamics of inflation or whatever, right? They can't tie up a completely or loosen up a completely tight lending environment where debt is no longer a viable vehicle for acquisition. Like they can't change macro. They're not the Fed. Okay, they're just bankers. But having the right bankers is really, really important if you're trying to do, a very big deal. I think it's important, and they will help you. Don't waste time on people that aren't a real buyer. Like sometimes you know who the buyers are going to be. Sometimes you have no idea. In this case, um, we oriented exactly on the right profile, which there's not a lot of the right profile buyers who were both in this business generally and were trying to expand their capabilities and really wanted Google, right? Like that's and could afford a deal this size. That's the other kind of thing when you grow beyond a certain size. There's tons of little deals. Accenture buys 100 companies a year, 80 of them fail. It doesn't matter. It's like that's just how they work. But there's actually not too many multi-$100 million acquisitions in this space. Um, and so that's another thing you have to get right. But again, we knew we wanted to do something. We needed to do something. So we started T minus X years, making sure like the comp and equity stuff is as in good shape as possible. So everyone would be taken care of, right? When the time came, we'd have their support, not their dissent. Two is being prepared with actually basic things like audited financials. Do you have a big four auditing your financials early enough? You don't want to be like, oh, now I need 3 years of audited financials. Shit, that's going to take 9 months, right? Because I have to do 3 years. Like, no, just start early, have right good advisors around you, make sure you're financially super clean and tight, your taxes are right, your audited financials are right. um, the rest of it is it was the timing of all this was very challenging because it was in the midst of COVID in the beginning, and then midst of a big financial downturn, tightening of the debt markets, private equity interest shifted over time, strategic interest shifted over time, and we ended up in the best possible home for the business, which is Insight Enterprises. But we could tell from the first phone call that they were serious and they were completely transparent, and they basically did everything they said they were going to do throughout the
Wow,
process.
that says
Uh,
a lot. That says
that
a
says a
lot.
lot. That says a lot, and to this day, I feel super grateful to that team, the leadership team who believed in us, the board. And public companies, they go through a lot of scrutiny to make these things happen. They have to justify acquisitions to their shareholders, right? And to
Huge.
executives have to justify it to the board. The board has to justify it to shareholders. So I feel so proud that we went through and successfully, um, you know, not only survived but thrived through the process. And I think
Dude.
testament to my mom and to our board and to our incredible leadership team for running such a pristine business that we went through that. But yes, there was a lot of people kicking tires. There was a lot of people who said they were buyers, and I would tell them, "You're not a buyer, and here's why." And then it would come back to me and say like, "Yeah, we're gonna pass, and this is why." I'm like, "I told you." Like,
Yeah.
but dude, if you do M&A all the time, if you're like the founder Mike of the ServiceNow business, this is like his fourth or fifth exit. If it's your baby, it's your family business. You've done this once. You tend to like we did have a little spin out in 2019. We learned a lot from that process, so we were complete novices, and that was sold to private equity and the spin out. But man, it's a complex game, and it's emotional, um, and you're not the smartest person in the room, when it's all happening because you just don't have the experience. But you have to have good advisors and
Yeah.
hopefully trust your gut. But look, if you have a great business that you're proud of, that no matter what happens, you'll be great, right? It's not
Exactly.
a distressed asset. Makes it easier, but you can't do that in 6 months. You have to have been doing the right things for many years in a
Exactly.
row, and then you have a beautiful asset. And hopefully, it's just a matter of like having a good service or a good product. You find the right customer, the right buyer, and you can't sell it to the wrong buyer, and you can't get 10x what it's worth. It's worth what the market says it's worth. And if you're, you know, sober and honest about that, then that's what my dad always said. My dad's wisdom is so wise. He's the reason we had such a great sales culture. He understood that when he first got to this country, he understood how important sales was. Up to this time, anytime 2, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I was like, I should celebrate. I was like, Dad, Sada, we're doing so well. I think we're worth X. He's like, shut up. It's only worth what someone's willing to pay for. I was like, you're right. And that's the market reality. That's the beautiful capitalist
Sober
system
and
we live in.
honest.
Yeah.
Sober and honest. I liked it. Tony, what's the most transformative piece of advice you've ever received, and how has it guided your decisions on scaling, leadership, exiting, whatever, life?
There's so many, and I wrote about like the big lessons I learned. Look, every business is a people business. You have to lead by example as a leader. You have to stay humble as a leader. You have to surround yourself with exceptional people who are way smarter than you, and all the things you're not going to be the world's top expert in. You just can't. And uh, leadership, man, leadership. You share the credit, take the blame. Everything comes down to leadership to me at the end of the day. Good leaders, good people can weather through anything. They can launch new service offerings, they can fix major problems, they can foresee things, they can stick by you when things get tough, they'll support you when things get hard. They won't bail on you the moment, there's a challenge. Um, uh, that's super, super important. But again, since we're talking about growth and hyper growth, if you can't sell, you suck at sales, I don't care how good your service delivery is or how good your product is.
Nobody will ever see it. Doesn't
I
matter
won't
how
see
good it
it.
is.
You know how many times the history of time is you mentioned this because you've seen it. The best product has lost over and over and over again in the history of time,
I bet.
especially in technology, but really in anything. Like OS2 Warp was a way better operating system than Windows.
It's crazy.
You know, um, Netscape
Tremendous.
was way better than Internet Explorer.
Wow.
Right? Like it's better. Netscape was better. Internet Explorer sucked. Um, there's just so many examples of that. And my dad knew this early days. He's working at his first job at Superior Industries, making wheels in the valley. And this Oracle salesperson came. This is a late 80s. Um, Oracle, man, getting off the ground. This guy was in his office all the time, working with him. Dude, he gave him all his books and like here's how like relational databases were new, but for whatever reason Superior did not move forward with the deal. The sales guy got fired, and he's like, man, sales really important.
Very important.
He got it. He got it.
Isn't that funny that he learned a tremendous lesson from you said wheel shop that he still carries to this day that you
Oh yeah,
remember.
yeah,
Huge. And
yeah.
that's another reason uh, e- kids of entrepreneurs should not automatically come into the family's business, because there's opportunities like that to learn from other people that I think is huge,
Oh,
very,
working other places is super, super
very
important.
important.
Yeah.
Tony, you're a giver. I like to think I'm a giver. We're asked a lot. There's a lot of requests coming at you. How do you, especially now you have a little more time, how do you kind of determine what's a hell yes and what's a no? That's a really
Yeah.
tough thing to do.
Yeah. We talked about this before. I think it's a little more important for me now in retirement. Um, though, it's very important now to focus
Uh-huh.
because again, just like running a business, you have to go narrow but deep to have an
Yes.
impact. And we've just decided, look, we're gonna have, as far as little gifts, we have some capacity. We can make little gifts here and there of things that we like. But as far as meaningful gift, it's like Children's Hospital Los Angeles,
Yeah.
our kids' two schools, and for me, it's like Armenia basketball. Um, and it's just the things that I love and are passionate about. Kids' schools for obvious reasons, CHLA for obvious reasons. But I can't also do, you know, the, you know, they
Yep.
come to you too, like every single request, and maybe more disproportionately from the Armenian community and those great organizations.
Yes.
But we can't support them all, and it's okay to say no. We shouldn't feel guilty about it. We shouldn't be forced to believe like we're not good people or we're greedy or we're not good Armenians if we don't support certain things. We just can't. Like we just can't, or it's not our passion. And even if our friends are doing it, it's okay to not do it. And then our situation will change over time. Our passions will morph over time. My kids are not going to be in these schools forever, right? Like it is what it is, man. It's okay. It's okay.
I like
It's
what you
okay.
said. Even in giving, even in philanthropy, even in whatever personal life, is don't scatter yourself thin and do little things in 100 places. Do just a couple, few, but go deep. Go all in.
Yeah, yeah. And again, if like like a friend's kid is doing something and it's like $800, like of course, like write those
Yes.
checks, right?
Yep.
But we can't. If we wanted to support every great nonprofit or Armenian nonprofit or whatever, it's just not
We have
possible.
a gala a week. It's too much, right?
Yeah. No,
It's
and
too much.
they're doing great work and they're doing
Absolutely.
wonderful things. But it's okay to stop doing certain things that you started too.
Yep.
Like I used to do that and I don't do that anymore. Again, it's like firing a customer or an employee or a
Yeah.
breakup. It's okay. It's okay if you do it the right way.
It's huge. Tony, are we gonna have a Tom Brady moment, or are you actually retired? And what's next for Tony?
Uh, John, I feel like doing nothing and I feel great about it. And I'm doing this and, once in a while I'll do something like this. But dude, if I didn't have these three kids who are 13, 11, and 3, and where 4 to 6 hours a day goes by like that, just in
Yeah.
pickups and drop-offs and playing and this, I would probably be bored. I'm not at all bored. I have
Great.
no drive to, I have nothing to prove to myself. Actually, the most wonderful thing about this timing of doing this with you is that my mom's last day was on Friday.
Oh, cool.
She's the last Safoian left over there that now is, she retired as well. First my
Wow.
dad, then me, then my mom. Both of my mom's sisters who are still, here with us and healthy, both have been retired for many years, both the younger one and the slightly older one. And now she gets way more time with them and with all of us and with my
Amazing.
little, especially my little one, my 3.5 year old, almost 4 year old one. It's like love,
So much fun.
love all around there.
So much
Um,
fun.
and that's a beautiful thing. I'm just gonna enjoy this, spend a lot of time with my parents, a lot of time with my kids. If something becomes a hell yes at some point in the future, maybe. But again, the great friend that we have in common also said, like, man, it's like all you've been doing is tech for 24 years. It's all you've been thinking about, driving really hard. Like we
Yeah.
said, not a lifestyle business. trying to build something best in the world, you have to turn all that stuff off for a long period of time for you to even appreciate what else is out there. What else might you be passionate about? Um, like just reflect and stare into the trees, and like we haven't done that. I haven't done that. So there's no rush, which is a beautiful thing. Extremely privileged position that I don't have to go work somewhere else or start something new. But time will tell, my friend, and I'm
Maybe you
sure
write a book.
you'll know about it.
I love it.
Maybe.
Maybe you
Maybe.
write a book.
Maybe.
Tony, it's been incredible, man. I've learned so much. Every time we've met, I've learned. I feel like I should be taking notes, but I really
You are
appreciate
taking
you doing
notes.
this.
You're
I know,
recording for all history.
I know, but I literally used to, take notes. But uh, you've been incredible, man. Thank you for everything you do for the community. Thank you for being on this show. Most importantly, I appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate you. I learn from you all the time too. And
Oh, man.
birds of a feather.
Let's go, baby. Thank you, Tony. Congrats on
Thank
all
you
the
for having
growth.
me.
Take care,
Appreciate
brother.
you. Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of another great episode of the Tech Leaders Playbook. I want to thank you for joining us and hope you took away some valuable insights to apply in your professional journey. Don't forget to subscribe on your preferred podcast platform so you don't miss out on the next great conversation. I promise it'll be good. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd appreciate if you could leave us a review. Your feedback not only helps us improve, but it also helps others discover the podcast. Better leaders mean better working environments. Better working environments leads to happier people. Remember, a rising tide lifts all boats. I'm Avetis Antaplyan, and this has been the Tech Leaders Playbook. Keep leading, keep learning, keep giving, and I'll see you on the next one. Until then, stay inspired, my friends.